The next president faces the possibility of appointing several justices to the Supreme Court. We're looking at the court in our ongoing series, Issues That Matter. Here's how the candidates say they would handle vacancies on the nation's highest court.
And the kind of people that I would be looking to nominate to the court would be in the great tradition of standing up to the powerful, standing up on behalf of our rights as Americans.
The replacement of our beloved Justice Scalia will be a person of similar views, principles, and judicial philosophies. Very important.
I would hope that the Senate would do its job and confirm the nominee that President Obama has sent to them. That's the way the Constitution fundamentally should operate.
I think the next president should make the pick. I would be not in favor of going forward.
I strongly support Roe v. Wade. The government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice, and I will stand up for that right.
Do you want to see the court overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, if we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be, will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court.
Well, I support the Second Amendment. I think we need comprehensive background checks, need to close the online loophole, close the gun show loophole.
We need a Supreme Court that, in my opinion, is going to uphold the Second Amendment and all amendments, but the Second Amendment, which is under absolute siege.
The Supreme Court should represent all of us. That's how I see the court.
The Supreme Court, it's what it's all about.
2 legal legends are with us to discuss the challenges before the Supreme Court. David Boies and Ted Olson were on opposing sides of Bush versus Gore, the case that decided the 2000 election. But the 2 teamed up in 2009 to fight California's ban on same-sex marriage. The case paved the way for the Supreme Court to declare same-sex marriage a constitutional right. Boies says he is voting for Hillary Clinton. Olson has not announced his choice. We welcome you both. I just said finally this third debate when they brought up the Supreme Court. I cheered. Finally, we're discussing this issue. Ted, let me start with you first. If this election is contested, if Donald Trump has alleged it's rigged, could it make its way to the Supreme Court?
Well, it's conceivable it could make its way to the Supreme Court. It depends so much on what happens in close votes in individual states, because the way the Electoral College is set up, the votes are by states, and if it's a very, very close popular vote in a particular state, as it was in 2000 in Florida, it's conceivable there will be arguments about disputes, then about the butterfly ballot, absentee ballots, veterans ballots, and all how things were counted and recounts. It's conceivable that could happen again, highly unlikely.
David, when was the last time we had a rigged election in this country?
I don't think we've ever really had a rigged election for presidency. You've had some very close elections. You've had situations in 1960 where there were allegations about votes in Illinois. You had some issues in the 2000 election. But I don't think you've ever had a rigged election in the sense that voter fraud has determined the outcome.
Does hacking change that?
I think hacking is a risk. Particularly with the use of electronic machines, and particularly with the use of electronic machines that don't have a paper record. Some electronic machines, the optical character recognition machines, have a paper record so that you can go back and check it. But some of the electronic machines don't have a paper record. So if somebody hacks in, you may not be able to prove it.
There are many issues that come before the Supreme Court. 2 of the issues that came up in the last debate were abortion and gun rights. Let's start with abortion. David, Donald Trump said that he would appoint someone to the Supreme Court who would overturn Roe versus Wade. How would that work?
Well, first of all, you'd have to find somebody who wanted to overturn it. Then there'd have to be an argument on it. And then you'd have to find enough people on the court to actually overturn it. And a lot of times people get on the court and they change their mind. And one of the things about appointing people to the Supreme Court is that once they're on the Supreme Court, you can't take it back. You can't recall them.
I believe he used the word. Do you remember he used the word immediately in the debate? He said, I would overturn it immediately. That's the reason I asked that question.
So the point you're making is it's not easily done.
It's not easily done, and it's not predictable. No matter how much you think you're going to be able to influence it, once people get on the court, it's a collegial body. They're going to talk to each other. They're going to listen to arguments. So you can't be sure who you're going to get.
Let's talk about what happened. The court is now 8 members, Justice Scalia having died. If, in fact, Hillary Clinton wins the election, Justice Garland has already been nominated. It is still in effect, his nomination. Would it likely be voted on by the lame duck Congress before the new Congress comes in January?
Most of the senators aren't sane, but there's a very good possibility that if Hillary Clinton is elected president, the Republicans might decide, well, she might appoint someone after the first of the year who's a lot younger and who's a lot more liberal. Merrick Garland is 63. He's enormously well qualified, highly respected by his colleagues on the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia for the D.C. Circuit. And Republicans might decide we could do a lot worse, and we could go ahead and vote.
The power might be with Mitch McConnell to bring it to the Senate.
He's the one who has to decide.
Meaning if Democrats win the Senate, there might be a calculation that Hillary Clinton could appoint someone even more liberal.
That was the premise.
Exactly, and younger.
What do you make of the fact, David, that they haven't even taken a vote on him yet, on Merrick Garland?
I think that's very disappointing. First of all, I think he ought to be confirmed. I agree completely with Ted. He's an exceptional judge.
I think Secretary Clinton also has said that, too.
Yes, I think that's right. But I think particularly not giving him a vote. I mean, you can disagree or agree that he ought to be confirmed. I frankly share with Ted, he ought to be confirmed. But I don't think you can disagree reasonably that he shouldn't be given a vote. That's the Senate's responsibility.
Can I ask you, too, about guns in America? There's leaked audio of Hillary Clinton at a fundraiser in which she said this. This was came up in the debate. She said this: "The Supreme Court is wrong on the Second Amendment, and I'm going to make that case every chance I get, so we'll need your help on that." That was about the Heller decision, of course, which for the first time affirmed an individual's right to bear arms at home. What does that mean to you when she said the Supreme Court is wrong on the Second Amendment? Ted?
Well, I don't know exactly what was in her mind when she said that, but if she means that I don't think there is an individual right under the Second Amendment, that would be quite significant. Now, what the Supreme Court held is that there is an individual right that may be reasonably regulated by the states or by the legislatures. So with respect to the types of weapons, when you received a weapon, what kind of background check, those are all reasonable regulations that are permissible under that Heller
Did
decision.
Justice Scalia write that opinion?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just ask this. There are 8 members now. If, in fact, Hillary Clinton wins and she gets to appoint a new member because somebody either dies or retires, the 2 oldest members are liberal Democrats, aren't they not? Ginsburg and Stephen Breyer. So she'd be reappointing somebody that's already part of the liberal bloc.
Well, conceivably, the 3 oldest members on the Supreme Court now average 80 years of age, and that includes Justice Kennedy.
Right.
And the last 3 that have left averaged 80 when they left the court, for one reason or another. So it's very likely that there will be another vacancy. Now, they do well. It's a healthy environment over there in the Supreme Court. They live quite long. David and I are never going to have that chance, but it prolongs your life. But there's always, actuarially, there's a likelihood that there is going to be a vacancy, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd year.
Right. Ted and David, as 2 people who've been on opposing sides and have not felt the need to go behind a barn and beat the crap out of each other, what advice do you have for people who just see things differently to get along? In one sentence, David.
I think that's part of what makes this country work.
Yeah.
I think we've got to get along. We've got to find out the things that unite us, not the things that divide us. And I think that's the way this country has been successful. I think that's the way we have to be.
I'm hearing more and more of that. So really, I mean, I heard it last
faith in the institutions that can help resolve conflicts.
And belief in those institutions, and belief in those
institutions.
institutions that have kept us a great country for a long time.
Ted Olson.
including the rule of law.
Absolutely.
So great to have both of you here. As you know, we could talk for an hour about this. Ted Olson, David
We could
Boies. Thank you so much.